Today's lecture, titled Developing MMR as a Global Economic Hub, is especially timely as India works towards the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. Metropolitan regions will be central to this transformation, and the Mumbai Metropolitan Region has a particular important role to play as one of India's largest and most dynamic economic regions. This session will explore the vision of transforming MMR into a globally competitive economic hub and a major driver of national growth. The presentation will consider how governance reforms, private investment, climate resilient planning, improved connectivity, and livability can together strengthen MMR's global competitiveness while ensuring inclusive economic growth. We are extremely privileged to have with us today Dr. Shankar C. Deshpande, Chief Investment and Planning Officer at the Mumbai Metropolitan Regional Development Authority. Dr. Deshpande brings over 3 decades of professional experience and is widely recognized for his work in metropolitan transformation, regional economic development, climate resilient infrastructure, transit oriented development, land value capture, digital urban governance, and sustainable infrastructure. He holds a PhD in civil engineering from IIT Mumbai and a postgraduate qualification in urban and regional planning from the Institute for Housing and Urban Development Studies in Rotterdam. He is a member of ISOCARP, a fellow of International Metropolitan Institute, and co-chairman of the Professional Standing Committee of the Institute of Town Planners at India. Dr. Deshpande has played a key role in positioning MMR within global economic and urban policy forums. He also contributed to the 2024 Memorandum of Collaboration between the Government of Maharashtra and the World Economic Forum. His professional engagements include collaborations with UN Habitat, UNEP, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, WRI, C40, ECLAI, the Urban Land Institute, and the Global Covenant of Mayors. Through these engagements, he has contributed to international dialogue on sustainable mobility, nature-based solutions, metropolitan governance, affordable housing, and urban finance. Dr. Deshpande, we are really grateful to you for accepting our invitation and for agreeing to share your experience and insights with us today. I now invite you to deliver your lecture, and you will have around 25 to 30 minutes time, and we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, madam. And it's indeed a privilege to be an NIUA expert speaker with you, madam. Thank you very much. And I would now request my IT team to shift on to the presentation mode and just let me know whether you can see the first slide, and then I can begin from there. And a very good afternoon to all my friends who are online.
Yes, the slide is visible.
Yeah, thank you. Are you sure that it's okay?
Yes.
So I hope that the first slide, which reads like developing MMR as a global economic hub, India's global gateway towards Viksit Bharat, is visible to all, with the last line talking about NIUA expert talk series. So is it the entire slide is visible to all of you online? And madam, you can see it at your place?
Yes, yes. It's visible
Fantastic.
online as well. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll be briefly covering, madam, about how Mumbai Metropolitan Region is being transformed with MMRDA and developing Mumbai Metropolitan Region as a global economic hub, and how we walk around towards embark the pathway of Viksit Bharat. And one good thing which is common, which I see, is NIUA completes its 50 years, and so is MRDA. So in 1974 is what MMRDA was constituted. I think around the same time is NIUA. So the growth has been 50 years. You are into policy and planning mostly, madam, and we are into execution. So now today I would actually like to speak about how the science and policy have mitigated and converted these policies into frameworks which are executed, and my friends online can then also guide me further about how MRD can achieve this impact in a very rapid way. So with your permission, let me just put the context of how MMRDA, how Mumbai Metropolitan Region, before that, how the urban scenario is developing. Most of the figures and especially NIUA is all aware of this, but for the audience, I'll just like to put the context again. 58% of humanity now lives in urban areas globally, and we have grown 21% from 1975, from 37% to today's population, and about 58%. Now, the growth has significantly happening in global south, in Asia and Africa. We have more number of megacities coming up these areas. And on the right hand side, when we see the graph of the growth of urban population from 1975 to 2025, we can easily see that the growth turn is going to go to about 50 to 55% in very quickly in India. Now, the challenges are humongous globally in cities, but if we see the opportunities also, and when we talk about India's growth story, we see that globally about 80% of the GDP is contributed through urbanized cities, and India today is contributing to about 65 to 70%, and that will still grow on. We also have to understand that the most carbon footprint is also being created through cities. The contribution to the greenhouse gases is also happening through cities. The heat island effect and the extreme events are also being faced in cities and regions. So when we look at cities as economic growth centers, and when we see that there are concentrations of populations which are contributing to the GDP growth, we should also realize that these are the same geographies which are facing the climate change effects and the extreme effects. And we have been hearing stories about heat in Europe everywhere, and heat in Delhi, heat in Mumbai and Bangalore. All the cities are having heat which is same. We are also having floods everywhere, and the air pollution issues, which are also becoming now a global concern. So we have to realize what exactly we want to achieve through cities. Now, this slide also gives you a picture of when we talk about India, which is fourth economy in the world today with 4.19 around that trillion dollars, and Maharashtra is about rank 41 with 0.58 trillion dollars. And let us see how other states are. We see Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, and Gujarat and West Bengal, which are the other states in the rank of 70. So if you're listing 100 centers of economies, which includes countries and cities, I want your attention to serial number 8 and 12, which is New York and Tokyo. They are not countries. They are city regions, they are economic regions. Talk about Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seoul, Chicago. All of this actually are contributing to their countries much more than few of the countries. If you see Maharashtra at 41 is equal to Israel or Ireland. So that is the contribution of one state. But if you look at New York, New York is contributing more than about 90 countries across the world. So that is the strength of regions. If you just go on the right hand side table, and if you see where India is today and what is aspiration of India when we are embarking this 100 years journey of independence celebrated on 2047, and we go to next 25 years on Viksit Bharat and Viksit Maharashtra. When India aspires to go to a $30 trillion economy and Maharashtra to $5 trillion economy, the contribution of Mumbai Metropolitan Region will be about $1.5 trillion in that. If we see the contribution of states, you will realize in the table just below that the GDP contribution of Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, and Gujarat is much higher. And if you see the contribution of metro regions, MMR, which is contributing 33% of the state today. So the contribution of cities to the state and region, and therefore the country is growing, and therefore we say that the metro regions are actually the economic engines of the country. Only 5 regions contribute about 20% of India's GDP, and city economic regions approach is the way forward for Viksit Bharat. Now let's also understand what do we actually mean to achieve by Viksit Bharat. A developed Bharat is not more only a monetary milestone, it's a good quality of life within a vibrant, cultural, and rich and harmonious society. We have some aspirations of every citizen, how the economy should grow, and how the society should be rooted about. So we want a long, healthy life with world-class health services, universal accessibility to water, power, and broadband, meaningful education and lifelong learning, and full employment and prosperous livelihoods for every citizen. That is what our definition of Viksit Bharat would look like as a citizen-centric country. How will be our economy look like? A leading global economy and magnet for talent and capital. I will explain how the city economic regions attract both talent and capital globally and locally, how Indian origin global business champions across the world, how vibrant rural economy merges with the urban economy, and how we have inclusive democratic development role model. How is that going to be achieved? And as a society, how environmental conscious, large forest covered, thriving, harmonious family ecosystem, and how culturally rich we become. So on these 3 pillars, how do we see Viksit Bharat, and what are actually our tangible goals? Our tangible goals for per capita income would be around 18,000 US dollars per capita per year. Our GDP, we want to grow from today's about $4 trillion economy to $30 trillion economy. Of life expectancy, we want to grow to about 85 years. And literacy, we want to be almost 100% literate by Viksit Bharat. Now, how do we achieve this, and what is the role of city economic regions in all this development is what my focus of the presentation today is. But will we be 165 crore population then? Will about 100 crore plus working hands? We already have the demographic dividend which is going to be empowered more and more. We'll have very less infant mortality rate because our health conscious will grow. And our industry share, which is about 10 to 15% today in the GDP, will grow down to about 34%. So now, if we actually convert this and see how our demographic profile is going to change, how our social profile is going to be adopted, and how our economic profile is going to change, then we actually see that we need to focus on our cities and economic regions to actually achieve these targets of Viksit Bharat. What is city economic region? This phrase has been phrased. Now we are trying to look about an urban geography, city economic geography, or city economic region. Now this is a functional economic definition which we use. It's not only an administrative boundary. Preferably, it's a landmass which is connected over 4 or 5 districts, preferably in one state, where we have a huge labor market, we have infrastructure development, we have the customers which flow around the transport networks with the supply chain, and all of this where people live, play, and work in a happy area. That's actually the city economic region. And the planning perimeter should then follow the economic flows. What I'm also going to talk about, how do we have this land use and transport connected with city economic region growth in my presentation today. And we'll see as further we go ahead, how do we follow this operating system, which is based on 5 basic principles. How do we define a functional boundary? How do we choose an economic vision? How do we actually have this land mobility and utilities and transit-oriented development integrate together? How do we make the projects bankable? How do we bring transparency? How do we structure them? How do we attract talent and finance? And then how do we deliver actually on ground to achieve this? And what is this entity which can achieve this over the group of urban local bodies or group of corporations and councils and village areas? So one focal metropolitan entity which actually integrates this land use planning, economic visioning, investment, talent attraction, to deliver this goal for the city economic region, which will achieve the Viksit Maharashtra and Viksit Bharat goal. Now, if you want to achieve actually the $30 trillion economy ambition, we'll have to connect jobs with land, mobility, and livability. Now, these are the basic four matrices on which we'll have to perform at city level, at metropolitan level, to achieve at a state level and a national level. So this actually is how do we create more jobs, how do we use the land value capturing methods, and how do we service land, and how do we make this land accessible and value increase, convert into connecting this through mobility and enhancing the livability of people. So can the city region be a productive platform for Viksit Bharat, and can more of these platforms across states and across India achieve these targets? That is what my presentation will slowly start focusing on. I just wanted to, Madam, also introduce that there's a global alliance and the direction in the same direction, and madam were there in with the various various platforms, and she's also aware, so do many people across the online platform. They are aware that these institutions define actually United Nations Habitat or World Bank, ADB, UNEP or UNDR. They actually are these institutions define how do we connect this economic vision with the special planning and finance, and how do we unlock productivity through service land, how do we use TOD for the benefit of livability, how do we decarbonize buildings and achieve this environmental program objectives of sustainability, and how do we then use mitigation and adaptation where the same area of economic progress of city and economic regions are actually vulnerable to climate change and extreme events. How do we actually bring the competitiveness, make inclusiveness and resilience together as one system within city economic region? That's these five institutions actually converge on a city region. How do we achieve that? I already introduced MMRDA, Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority. I work as a Chief Investment and Planning Officer for MMRDA. I've been working here since 1995, so this is 31st year I'm working with MMRDA. All through my career, I've been used to work on development plan, regional plan, building permission, sustainability, transport infrastructure, connecting, and now I've been recently last 4 to 5 years I've been focusing on how these cities can leverage this land value for their growth, attract more talent, have more global collaboration, and then convert this land use plan and transport plan and merge it with the economic plan and sustainability plan for the livability. And if we see the vision of Mumbai Metropolitan Region, is this 6,328 square kilometers, which is to connect seamlessly within 59 minutes. And when the 10 million people travel every day, we want to make their commute very delightful. We want 25 million Mumbaikars to have a very good lifestyle with 200 billion economy, which is going to be attracted through private investment. We want to create 3 million jobs, and we want to convert this into a $300 billion economy by 2030. So how do we achieve this within the setup, a preamble under the Act, which is planning, coordinating, and supervising the orderly development of Mumbai Metropolitan Region? When I do the project's execution through either transport or infrastructure or environmental social planning, when I select a project, I always see that whether it is meeting the objectives and the preamble set in the Act. And when the projects are selected and executed, we actually are empowered by Act under MRTP and under MMRD Act to work at various scales. AMRD works at macro level, works at meso level, and works at micro level. And this gives me liberty to work at a very large scale, to 1 to 10,000, to a very micro scale at plot level. So I actually work at plot level, neighborhood level, then I work at sector level, I work at a small city level, and then I work at a regional level. So when you work across this, you actually know the pain points, gain points, and what is that lacking in infrastructure, and what is that which creates the scale and impact. So giving that huge experience, we have an organization with MRDL with experts of architects, urban planners, urban designer, economists, sociologists, all working together for overall development of Mumbai Metropolitan Region for the 25 million people. But if you see across any region, you will find some of these issues which are actually defining the city and regions today, which we have to overcome together. Public transport is always under strain. Affordable housing and inclusive housing is always a challenge. There is a land scarcity for development. as I told about climate change effects, air is not very clean and road congestion is seen everywhere across the cities. Now, how does Mumbai metropolitan region overcome all of this and still achieve economic progress and achieve livability together? Now, I just want to give a context who are not from Mumbai to just see that Mumbai is Mumbai metropolitan region is 6,000 square kilometers. It's about 110 kilometers north south, 65 kilometers east west, and about 300 kilometers of coastline. And if we see the initial years of Mumbai, we wanted to confine the development only in the South Bombay at the tip, where all the jobs were created and people were traveling from the farther area, and bus and rail was the only mode where people traveled earlier. And then you see on the right hand side the built form is very concentrated only in the south tip. And if you see the regional plan on the right hand side, you will see that the most of the area is green outside the area, and the entire densities are located in the tip of the Mumbai. So when the first regional plan, the confinement was the theme around which we thought that there could be in the region different growth centers, but there should be only one prime center or growth center. Slowly we wanted to change the thought because people started living far away, because affordable housing was only possible further away, and we then needed to connect where people stayed. And what happened is in the 90s, where we have a densification decade, where you can see on the right hand side that there are red spots have started increasing and the habitation has started moving away, and the bus and rail services could not meet the expectations where growth was happening. The people started using car. Now, when people started using car, the pollution increased, the roads were not sufficient, and then we realized that where people are moving by car, it is not even sustainable planning, and it's not economic planning. So we needed to have more growth centers where we could create more number of jobs. So you see BKC being added in the second slide along with Nariman points where the job centers were created. That is why we started creating job centers in Bandra Kurla complex, where we find today about 300 hectares of land which is as a growth center and which is now contributing to 5% of the national GDP itself, and only 2% of the population in Mumbai metropolitan region contributes to 5% of the GDP. If we see at Mumbai 3, which is now the next 20 years period, where we see that we have decentralized and polycentric growth is now possible with not only one growth center but multiple growth centers. We are now having metro network spread across the Mumbai metropolitan region, and we are also trying to achieve sustainability by preserving and conserving the forest areas, but trying to see that the densities are good, productive, and transit oriented development is a way forward. If we see this interesting slide, this actually defines what is popularly narratively known as Mumbai 1, Mumbai 2, and Mumbai 3, and Mumbai 4. I'll just slowly explain on the seat, which I would request you to see on the yellow patch where you see the airport in Mumbai 1. That's a very dense area of about 25,000 people per square kilometer, which is Mumbai 1. Slowly, we have seen the areas of outskirts of Mumbai 2 going up, and there is a new Mumbai International Airport, which was just inaugurated last year, functional, and a port area. So Mumbai actually today has two airports and two ports within this 100-kilometer radius, and we'll have soon the third airport and third port in Vadwan, which is coming up. So there will be huge economic activity which is coming up. And today, if you can see on the left-hand side, 20% of the software exports, or one-third of corporate tax, one-third of income tax, two-third of maritime trade, and about half of foreign trade happens of the entire country from Mumbai metropolitan region. So this actually demonstrates that this agglomeration which is happening in Mumbai metropolitan region with 2% of population, 5% GDP is the economic center of India. And one region, 5 districts, 9 municipal corporations, which we can see in the central drawing, with very close to Nasik metropolitan region and Pune metropolitan region, with two airport, two seaports functional, and about 1,000 villages. About 1,000 villages also now being slowly converted into city areas and special planning authority areas. On the right hand side, the last image which is showing us central emerging centralities, which indicates to us that because of various corridors of transport which we are opening up, and I'm going to show in my slide to come, We are actually having polynucleated growth, which is then going to have a lot of activities of work, play, and stay very close to the transit areas. And the travel time, which is Mumbai was almost 2 hours, has to be brought down to less than 1 hour. And when you know that Mumbai Metropolitan Region is being planned on three basic principles, we call it as rebooting of Mumbai Metropolitan Region, because we are providing huge infrastructure impetus at a very large scale and speed. So that is why we call it rebooting the infrastructure. We also call it reshaping Mumbai Metropolitan Region. We call it reshaping because we are opening up more number of areas, and instead of Mumbai 1, which is only north-south, we now have a polynucleated growth. So the shape of Mumbai Metropolitan Region is becoming arch-type and circular. And thirdly, we say in Mumbai in minutes, because everywhere you know the cities are more efficient across the world if you travel less than 1 hour. So our ambition is to travel anywhere north, south, east, west, or circular pattern, anywhere to anywhere within Mumbai Metropolitan Region less than hours. So on these three principles, when we built Mumbai Metropolitan Region, we thought in the year about 23-24, how could we leverage our existing transport networks? How could we bring land value capture? How would we actually use the sustainable plans and the transportation plans and the economic plans together? So we had to have an economic vision to drive this with quality of life and inclusivity as two of these main pillars. And then with the government of India Niti Ayog, which was the first exercise which was done for Mumbai Metropolitan Region, we prepared the first economic master plan. And then we had in Surat and Gujarat now I think has already prepared. Visakhapatnam has also prepared, and most of the other cities are also preparing the economic master plan. And we then had a lot of stakeholders meetings with all who are contributing to the economic growth, formal, informal segment, government of India institutions, government of Maharashtra institutions, private institutions. And we talked with academy, we talked with industry, we talked about all of the stakeholders who are contributing to Mumbai Metropolitan Region. And then this plan was firstly given to public. With we also on the same day had a memorandum of collaboration with World Economic Forum, and also the first city region plan of India of Mumbai Metropolitan Region was launched on 12th of September 2024, and this was with three basic ideas. The first one: how do we change our GDP from today's 140 billion Mumbai Metropolitan Region to 300 in the first stage, and then to $1.5 trillion in the next 17 years? How do we add more jobs from 10 million to 13 million to 20 million? And how do we increase the GDP per capita from 5,000 to 10,000 to make it 38,000? Now, if you see the ambitious jumps which you are going to have in the first 7 years and the next 17 years, which coincides with the Viksit Bharat, when we want to achieve actually the targets of Viksit Bharat in the next 20-25 years, we actually need to target all the regions, maybe Mumbai, Calcutta, Bangalore, Delhi. Not only those regions, we have to also focus on tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So now the growth and the urbanization are synced. All the global graphs, you see that the GDP per capita increases as urbanization increases. Now, how do we actually convert these densities into economic growth? How do we say that these numbers are not congestion, but they are all productivity? How do we bring growth into the city? And how do we make this sustainable is what we will see in the next few of the slides which are coming up. So Mumbai itself has its 10 strengths which together. So every economic region has to understand what is the strength of that region currently and how do we conquer on the strength. India's financial capital, largest port and trade hub, which was globally connected. We have Bollywood as entertainment capital, 300 kilometers of coastline, large cosmopolitan culture and center, large manufacturing hub, one of India's startup and innovation ecosystem. We have multimodal domestic connectivity and historically 10 significant regions. On the basis of these 10 trends, we then found out that what are the drivers of my economy in the next 10 to 15 years, and how do I grow not 6% which nation is growing, but 12 to 13% per year GDP contribution. And if I want to grow at this rate, what is the capital which is required? What is the infrastructure which is required? What are the jobs which are going to get created? What is the attraction which I have to make globally? Now, with that, the 7 growth drivers which were identified for Mumbai Metropolitan Region based on our strengths and what we need to make it a more livable region are: the first one was global services hub. So about 1 million jobs are going to get created and $40 billion investment is required to make it a global financial hub. We need to also see that Mumbai doesn't like to be proudly called that 50% of our people stay in the informal sector in slums. We want to have a lot of policy framework is in place, and we have get a lot of traction momentum. I want to show in my slides is going in this direction, where 3 million affordable housing units will be constructed in a very short time in the next 10 years. We also want to ensure that 300 kilometers of coastline is used for global tourism and MICE industries to attract global economic activities in Mumbai region. As I already told you, Mumbai has Mumbai Port Trust, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, and Vadhavan Port Trust. So supply chain is a very important thing now in global economy, with e-commerce and quick commerce having a very important role in real estate and in cities and in jobs. So this is the fourth driver which we identified. The fifth driver, which is very important, is how do we use the land around the metro stations at transit oriented development for creating more number of livable space, jobs, affordable housing, and how can we make the last mile and the first mile as a walking trip for the citizens. We cannot forget that the energy is always going to be an a constraint. We need more and more energy as cities across the world. We have seen that they consume more as they grow. Same will be the case of India. When we grow, we will require more and more energy, but we need to use that less carbon footprint and more green energy. So we have to also focus on sustainability, and we'll also have to ensure that the travel and the transport has to be economical, afford and delightful, and we don't have to only connect with the private transport, but public transport has to be focused. And we talk about buses, we talk about metro, we talk about last mile and first mile and core mile. Now all of this, if we do together, it requires huge amount of investment. About 2.5 lakh crores investment is needed per year only in Mumbai Metropolitan Region. We are currently having 1.5 lakh crores investment pipeline for Mumbai Metropolitan Region. Now you can see, when we have an economic master plan, we have a transport plan, we have a sustainable plan, and we have a land use plan, and we want to create an impact at scale and at the large scale. We need money. Now how do we actually structure this, and how do we get the money? I will go quickly on each of these sector for a few minutes. The growth driver one talks about global services hub built on 7 champion services. So we need to focus on financial services, new age services, global aviation. For each of these services, we need some policy actions and we need some build form. How is that we are going to create on housing? What are the policies which are required? How are we going to grow on tourism? How number of more hotels and more restaurants are going to get opened up, and how do we change the policies to do that? That is what I'm going to show in my further slides. How do we develop logistics parks and industrial parks and leverage the three ports in the entire global supply chain in the current geopolitics, also favoring India and favoring Mumbai Metropolitan Region? How do we actually use transit oriented development as a base for city transformation, creating more livable space, more habitable space, more amount of build for more number of office spaces to attract more number of jobs, and more affordable housing in an walk to place work? How do we actually have more number of transit oriented developments and urban cities within cities? That is what I'm going to talk about, transit oriented development. I also touched upon the point of inclusivity and sustainability. How do we actually use battery infrastructure and green infrastructure for our transport, and how do we actually add more number of other elements apart from transport? And we have to talk about blue infrastructure and green infrastructure at a regional level. Now, hoping that all of this infrastructure actually comes, it's going to add physical footprint and more number of buildings are going to come. 3 million affordable housings, 150 to 175 square foot of great space is going to get added, more number of hotel rooms, more colleges, more warehousing, more tertiary bed, and more industrial area. So you see, when all of this is going to get a build through private sector and through public sector, and most of this, about 70 to 80%, is going to get through private sector. The government's role is enabler, facilitators, and infrastructure provider. Now, how do we actually do this, and how does this actually infrastructure lead to amenities for livability and talent attraction? We have to realize cities across the world are not only economic and job centers, they also have to be livable places. So how do we make them more livable? How do we add blue infrastructure, green infrastructure, more hospital place, more education place, more social life, and how the social capital increases along with our financial capital, and how this is attracted is what we have to all focus on and see the projects. Now, when we want to grow Mumbai Metropolitan Region from 140 billion to 300 billion, There are about 37 projects identified for Mumbai. We have identified 8 policy shifts which are required. 9 institutions will take part in this. Mumbai Metropolitan Region is not only developed by Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority. We have CIDCO, we have MHADA, we have other Government of India agencies, we have other Government of Maharashtra agencies like MIDC who are also contributing. But our role is to drive this economic master plan through various projects, various institutional shifts, and see a cohesive approach is there so that policy speed is attracted. But if you see from this graphs and bar diagram, you can see very easily that a small amount of catalytic public action actually brings the more of the private capital which is required in about 180 to 190 billion dollar investment. 70% is going to come from the private sector. So when we see this slide, you clearly understand that the role of state government is only in providing infrastructure and taxation. Now, even for this, how is this money going to come? And that is why land value capturing is very important for both state government and central government, because when the infrastructure is led by the state government and central government, the land value appreciates, and then that is why the project becomes feasible for private sector. And when the projects become feasible for private sector and there is a gain by private sector, we need to capture some amount of gain and plow back to the state government and central government for again providing more and more infrastructure in the same area. These are the projects which are identified along with the 7 growth drivers. Each of the growth drivers identified project, and there is an organization mapping also done for each of the projects. So we have some projects done by MMRDA, some by CIDCO, some by urban local bodies, SRA, MHADA, Tourism Department, Maritime Department, Industrial Corporation, Indian Railways, State Road Development Corporation, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust, and Energy Mahapri. So what I mean to say is, if you want to achieve the progress of Mumbai Metropolitan Region, and you want to achieve through the economic master plan, you want to achieve through the 7 growth drivers, then there are each of these institutions who have identified projects who have to deliver. There's a mechanism already set in Maharashtra, which I'll be talking about. But for doing all of this, we need institutions progress. So we have this MMRDA, CIDCO, MIDC, Housing Department. Every department is identified for delivering a particular number of projects. A target has been given for economic progress, a job creation, and a physical progress every year to be achieved. We needed to transform this to bring some policy transformation, services policy, tourism policy, affordable housing policy, transit-oriented development policy, green MMR policy, and we needed some more policies for promotion of investment. All these policies are in framework now. Each of these institutions is contributing, and then this is the most important slide to see how do we monitor, how do we govern. There's a highest apex body at the Honorable Chief Minister's level. We have a steering committee at the Chief Secretary, Honorable Chief Secretary's level. Metropolitan Commissioner, MMRDA, is also the head of the project management unit. And we have various other departments which talk to each other, collaborate to each other. So this is a collaborative approach at the city level, which is monitored at regional level, which is monitored at urban development and housing development level, with the meeting at the Chief Secretary and at the Honorable Chief Minister's level. So debottling also happens at the Honorable Chief Minister's level. Interdepartmental coordination happens, and the budget allocation and the distribution, the policy framework all happens by due diligence at various levels. So this is happening, and we get support from the NITI Aayog and Government of India from time to time at various issues. As when I mean this GR, that is the government resolutions, are in place for each of these activity. Now, if you deep dive into Mumbai Metropolitan Region, when I say that Mumbai Metropolitan Region is getting transformed and it is getting reshaped, it's basis on about these 14 metro lines which are coming up, 337 kilometers of metro line, about 400 transit-oriented developments coming across the Mumbai Metropolitan Region, which is the huge potential for building the build form, and it's a 2 lakh crore project which is Mumbai Metropolitan Region. Another very important project is the ring roads. And when I talk about ring roads, you have to traditionally understand that Mumbai was a north-south corridor, which also some had the east-west connections. But now we are having ring roads coming in the Mumbai Metropolitan Region. And every ring is about 10 kilometers. So you have 70 kilometers, you have 7 rings. So anywhere to anywhere you can travel in Mumbai Metropolitan Region. Another 400 kilometers of roads with tunnels and ring roads being planned in Mumbai Metropolitan Region. If you see this Mumbai Metropolitan Region now, you can see the big infrastructure projects which are of size, scale, and speed, which need to be transformed the Mumbai Metropolitan Region, like connectivity of bullet train. Actually, what bullet train has done is bringing about 100 kilometers distance less than 20 minutes. That's what bullet train has done. So my station when starts from Bandra It goes to Thane in 8 minutes, which is normally taking 1.5 hours. From Thane, it reaches to Vasai Virar in another 8 minutes, and from Virar to Boisar in 20 minutes. So what we can see is people from Boisar, which normally takes 3 hours now to reach Nariman Point, will be traveling in less than 25 minutes. That's something which actually the transport transformed the region. Same is with Mumbai Metro project. And when we see that we are not only connected within the region, we also need connections with the region and other regions. So Mumbai is connected with Nagpur very easily. Mumbai is connected with Delhi. Mumbai is connected with other parts through an international. And we are now having two airports, Navi Mumbai Airport and airport. So we are globally connected. And Atal Setu project, which is very proud occasion of MRDA, this 17,000 crore project and about 22 kilometers of sea link, which has opened up huge landmass around Mumbai, which is coming up. And very important project is now each organizations within Mumbai Metropolitan Region is asked to do affordable housing. That is what Mumbai Metropolitan Region Development Authority is also doing. And this project, which we talked about, two Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust and Mumbai Port Trust, two airports, and the KST Newtown, which MMRD is the Newtown Development Authority, which is just 20 minutes away from the existing Mumbai Airport or the new Mumbai Airport or the Mumbai Port Trust, connected from an Atal Setu. This is going to transform and reshape and add tremendously to de-densification of Mumbai Metropolitan Region, and also attract more talent, more capital, more jobs. And across Mumbai Metropolitan Region, we are likely to grow 13 to 14% only basis of a special planning authority areas and the Newtown areas where MMRD is appointed. MMRD in the last 50 years has contributed humongously to the Mumbai Metropolitan Region's growth with very proud infrastructure projects of water supply, metro network, monorail network, or land use spaces like Bandrakola complex, Wadala, etc. We are the only agency which have been appointed as a special planning authority with the highest area of about 5,000 square. Out of the 6,000 square kilometers, we have 2,000 square kilometers of area as special planning authority, and we are developing this area. I also talked about Dharavi plan, which is not under MMRDA but within Mumbai Metropolitan Region, which is going to transform the Mumbai Metropolitan Region by a huge amount of housing stock getting created. Now, if we see where are we today and where do we want to go, if we see in 2025, the accessibility is in 2 kilometers. We want to provide a metro station at every 500 meters we need the Viksit Bharat. And we see the affordable housing. We need to provide about 3 million houses by 2047. We want to see that every person has a house. We want to grow from $0.2 trillion today to $0.5 trillion and $1.5 trillion by 2047. We want to grow on the indices of ease of living and clean and green energy. When we have the net zero targets for the country, we also want to achieve almost 85% of the net zero target by 2047. India's urban population is projected to rise from 480 million to 950 million by 2050, and cities generate about 80% of the growth. Almost 7 out of 10 people will live in urban areas. Urban India actually is going to be at the forefront of the climate challenges also, and we want to transform Mumbai Metropolitan Region into sustainable metropolis by efficient, affordable, inclusive and safe transit. That is why our focus is on transit. And if we see what is the outlook for the future, if you want to achieve that, today if we see, we are not good in economics, human capital, quality of life, environment and governance. If you see the rankings of Mumbai, which is the last line, we are not even in first 100 to 200 or 300. We are very almost far away from the rankings which ideally should be. And if we want to look at Mumbai to be near to New York or London, it is not only going to be the GDP progress. You remember the first slide which I showed that we are ranking fourth in India at $4 trillion, and maybe we'll grow very fast to number 3 position, and our cities in the GDP per capita will grow. But we also need to ensure that with our economic progress, we also actually want to be a livable city like New York or London or Paris. We need to focus on quality of life, environment and governance. And for that, if we see what is the current status and way forward, if we look at this, each of the things, economics today we are 148. We want to climb. What is our GDP per capita? We need to build infrastructure, diversify the economy, create more economy for more opportunities for female participation ratio, which is 35%, has to increase to about 58% to see that GDP per capita increases, the family increases, and we come out of this lower income trap to middle income trap to high income. And when we have highest income, we have a more amount of disposable capital at our place. Our economy grows very faster. Our lifestyle changes. our consumerism increases, we have more of talent attraction which is happening rapid, and human capital then actually becomes more productive, quality of life increases, environmental sustainability is very, very important. We are talking about heat and extreme events, and that's why the important with UNEP collaboration with MRD is very important. Governance, we always have been saying, in Government of India and Government of Maharashtra is trying to see that we get a role of enabler and facilitator, and we improve on transparency, and our tenders are structured, and our procurements is very easily possible. Now, when I want to say this, we need capital for all of the things. AMRD has collaborated and has a pipeline of funds with World Economic Forum. We have been able to attract 25 lakh crores as a capital in the next 10 years. We have a line of credit which is domestically available. We have taps with multilateral agencies. We have our own funds which are coming off of our own land disposal. So together, I can say that we have a 30 lakh crore pipeline for the next 10 to 15 years for MRDA. And this was possible with our global collaborations with World Economic Forum. We have World Urban Forum, and we have these collaborations with global institutions, which is now possible. This allows us to have talent attraction, best practices, and financial acumen possible with sustainable development, all possible through these global collaborations. So when I want to see that all of this is possible, then actually Mumbai Metropolitan Region, which is in the large quadrant or the last quadrant there, should actually aspire to be more livable, high in livability in Mumbai Metropolitan Region, the yellow spot. So if you actually want to go from green to Mumbai, we have to be less dense and we have to high in the GDP. So lesser of density and more of livability is the target all of Viksit Bharat, Viksit Maharashtra, Mumbai Metropolitan Region, and MRDA. Friends, I want to thank you for being very patient, and I'll now open up this floor with questions and answers. And Madam would like to also give her reflections about how Mumbai Metropolitan Region is going to be the central authority for driving this and becoming a template not only for Indian cities but for the global south, where we say that sustainable development goals are possible and meaningful climate action is also possible with inclusive and resilient future for all in Mumbai Metropolitan Region. Thank you very much, and I now open the floor for questions sessions with reflections from Madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Deshpande. I think it was an excellent presentation, and you took us through the journey of MMR and the way ahead for the next 20 years, how MMR is going to become a global economic hub, looking at also the concerns of climate and population, WPR for women. I think it's a holistic 360-degree turnaround that MMR is aspiring. I had one question in this regard. We are cognizant of the flooding that's happening in the Mumbai region. So any steps taken towards that? How are you going to address that in the next few years? And we know that a lot of hardships come to the people, common man, and also in terms of the quality of living, which is one of the main prime indices we are trying to address. So what is the plan of the government with regard to that? Thank you.
Yeah, Madam, flooding is something which is and it is very apt now that we are in the month of July and we are getting this extreme rainfall events. And when the high amount of intensity of rainfall for a very short time coincides with the high tide lines, we do get this flooding incidents at a local spots. But we have done this main river is Miti River, Madam, which flows within the city, which carries about 70% of the discharge, and it's 17 kilometers long. We have deepening and widened of the Miti River has taken place, Madam. We have also shifted about 17,000 people across the banks and the bed of the river. So now these flooding incidents have actually started reducing very rapidly, and this infrastructure which has been provided of pumping stations and the stormwater drainage enhancement, and what we have also tried to achieve a deepening of the nalas, desiltation of nalas, cleaning of the chambers has actually reduced down this incidence of flooding. However, if there is a coincidence of the highest rainfall, which is again a global phenomenon of extreme events, which we are vulnerable to, coincides with the highest high tide, we already have the pumps which are of very high capacity to pump the water into the sea. So we are trying to see that the damage is actually controlled, and we have been fortunate since 2005, 26 July 2005. We didn't have any deaths because of flooding, and we think that it is much under control, and disasters are being avoided and preventive action is being taken. And coming to enhancing of livability, the most of the livability is based on basically two things: affordable housing, so housing for all, each of the institutions and making it inclusive, having great programs for affordable housing provision, and most importantly, making life of transport very comfortable for all of them. You know, about 70% of the Mumbai travel by public transport by the local train. That is only 400 kilometers. We are having another 400 kilometers of metro network, which is about 50 kilometers of metro rapidly coming every year. So another 400 kilometers of metro coming up. 400 kilometers of road network which was not there coming up. It's not only that we are connecting the missing link, but we are adding more tunnel networks. We are having more urban tunnels. We are making it not only north, south, and east, west, but we are having circular patterns. So this transport network and the housing program is going to, along with blue and green infrastructure, transit oriented development, having more areas of urban green, increasing the per area green cover because of more of the forest conservation happening in the entire Mumbai metropolitan region, is going to transform the livability also. Plus, more of academic institutions coming in Medicity and Educacity in Mumbai Metropolitan Region, Mumbai 3, madam. So we are attracting global talent. We are also now having manufacturing base. We are having education institutions. We are having more number of hospitals. And that is why the social infrastructure, blue and green infrastructure is also being added and augmented along with physical infrastructure and transport infrastructure. And that's why we are very sure that the livability will be humongously enhanced in the next 4 to 5 years. And it will also help us to retain the talent and attract global talent, madam.
I think we are running out of time. If there is any question from the audience or from the NIUA staff, I would request to introduce yourself, to be brief, and we may have time for 1 or 2 questions at the max.
Thank you, madam.
Mehboob?
Thank you, sir. It was very insightful presentation. I have 2 questions. Briefly, I want to explain. One is that you have mentioned that the economic region extends with multiple districts, multiple local bodies. So also in the last budget, city economic region announced, and we are trying to understand how we can identify that with the multiple institutions. So what would be the, in your experience, what would be the institutional mechanism we should look at, or we should adapt to handle these multiple bodies which are coming under the city economic region? Second is that economic growth for this city economic region is very important and one of the primary focus. So how do we ensure that or include the small cities which are coming under the city economic region, or just age of the city economic region in the planning process to grow together? Thank you.
So the questions which he posed does have relevance to one of the projects which we are working with NITI. It's called Small City Initiative, where we are trying to devise a framework for the growth of small towns. And also one of the areas of concern is how do they also tap the Urban Challenge Fund. So in view of that, if you could respond to that. Thank you.
Madam and my dear friend, see, city economic regions are not only geographical regions. They are the functional regions where people can travel easily without geographical boundaries for 3 or 4 reasons. They travel for jobs, they travel for social infrastructure, they travel for physical infrastructure, because there is a physical infrastructure skeleton and layer. So that actually defines the city economic regions. For if you see Mumbai, we have about 20 urban local bodies. Within that, they have their own function. But you asked about how do we have a cohesive? So what we actually need is identify this region and how one economic region master plan. Once we have the vision, the execution of each of these projects can be done by urban local body, and connecting these urban local bodies can be done by regional body, because it happens outside the urban local bodies jurisdiction and boundaries, either by the financial scale or by the physical scale. And we also have to see that there are peri areas, and madam told about tier 2 areas, and there are fringe areas which are outside the cities, which are part of the region, which they'll become very vulnerable for growth and therefore informality. So if you want to avoid this informality and use this land as a land value capture mechanism, then you need to convert it into infrastructure, and you need a land use plan. You need an economic future plan, and it should be a master planning organization like MMRDF or a regional authority, which is having the vision outside urban local bodies, but also controlling and triggering the growth. For example, if you see the slide which I showed about connecting the centralities, that was all green area 20 years back. And you also understood our mistake of confining these things. Confinement didn't work. We had to open up the area, we had to provide infrastructure, and then we could see the growth centers are developing around this area. So transport plan, land use plan, economic targets with role of every institution, central government, state government is important. But for that, we need a master plan, identification, and a network of reporting and a network of doing. Plus, allow them to implement the project. But how do we raise the finance? It is not only from the state government, central government, regional bodies. So actually, they have to use the valuable land as an asset which is within the urban local bodies to make the structure the project so that minimal amount of state budgeted property is required and project becomes self-financing through accessibility of the land and through project financing and restructuring. That is what the urban local bodies are today facing some challenges, but we'll have to provide and do the capacity building with some amount of funds which is coming off UCF to make the projects viable, and they are part and parcel of the overall vision of the region.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for the presentation. I just have one question regarding the implementation of the planned economic regions that you have explained very nicely. When we talk about the implementation of these projects that have been identified, I'm sure you mentioned that there is a different transport plan that is going on. There is a different biodiversity plan that is there. However, we do understand that natural resources are limited. The population is growing and the economy is the way to go ahead. But when we go for the implementation plan, what are the various measures or the considerations that have been kept in mind so that the key biodiversity areas or at least the groundwater aquifer rich zones do not get spoiled while we are planning for the economy? I mean, the ecology is important. I understand that economy will overrule ecology here, but we do need to be considerate about the basic systems, because if we will not have water to supply to these areas, overall, the areas will anyway have the deficit and the liability index. That's 794th rank that India has. So that will decline more. So have there any considerations been taken into account for implementation of such projects? Because Mumbai will be leading this.
Madam, coming down to Mumbai Metropolitan Region, when we talk about sustainable development planning for the Metropolitan Region, we don't only have an economic plan, a transport plan, a land use plan. We have a blue and green infrastructure plan. With KFW, we're getting 100 million funds, $100 million of 100 million euros of fund with KFW only for converting and preserving these forest areas, blue areas, green areas, making them part of active recreation for the citizens of 25 million people. And what we're actually doing is connecting these areas with transport infrastructure. So you have a weekend in a park, which was not up till now happening. We have a regional park, we have a regional water body, which are all very important, not only to control the heat and the overall environment, but they are the flood sinks for me. So I am protecting mangroves in the city. I am protecting forests within the region. I am preserving the water bodies which are there. I actually have an environmental conservation society for which I am director. I also ensure that all of these water bodies are preserved, and as you rightly said, that we have the recharging of the water table which is happening up. We actually want to say that we want to lay the foundation of our economic progress on the layer of livability. Only then we will be globally recognized livable and economical progress country, state and region. So environment is very important, ecology is very important, and along with that, economy is also very important. So there are very fine areas, and that is why I say numbers are densities, densities are production, productivity is good. So it's first time I'm saying, if you look at congestion, it's bad. But if you look at congestion as a number which is a density which is productive, it's good. So cities are good if they are productive. So how do you convert, how do you give a transport layer with an education connected together with blue-green infrastructure, social infrastructure connected to make these numbers as a growth driver to add to the GDP?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the excellent presentation to take us through the entire journey of MMR and the vision ahead. And maybe as we go along with our various master planning projects in different cities and regions of the country, we will come back to you for your experience and expertise. And we hope to be connected. And thank you once again for the lecture.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you, people on online. And if there are any queries, etc., you can pass it on to madam, and madam can pass it to me, and I'll be happy to reply. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
thank you those who have joined online for joining us, and we hope to continue with this lecture series next month as well. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.